when we came to you last May to talk to you about this idea of having a convention of 10,000 families, and you looked at us and said, wow, you're crazy. First of all, we cannot do it in the timeline you want. We heard that. Secondly, we cannot do it the way you want to. We want to do it this way. We're going to do it in a campaign mode because that's the most effective way to get the input that you want from families. So we're doing that.
We've been in search of a vehicle to give voice to families. The idea of the campaign comes about from the mission of the foundation. It's very much related to our long-term goal of giving voice and strengthening the voice of low-income families and providing the space and the vehicle for that to happen. With this campaign format, we are going to engage more than 10,000 families because we will start with about 30 town hall meetings in different regions across the country that will engage about 9,000 families. And in addition to that, these town halls will culminate in 3 big events of approximately 3,500 people each.
We want to invite Luz to welcome us back into the room and begin to set the tone.
This is the forum to engage families. This is the forum that is going to help us create that vehicle that is going to produce the platform and a blueprint for change for families with their input.
The idea of building a movement of low-income people and families to try to understand what is the vision for their future and to understand what we need to demand, what we need to see in our schools, in our community, in our state, in our country. That's all about improving the prospects for everyone.
This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. Our communities we've been waiting for an opportunity to plug in and be a part of something larger.
What we had to figure out is how do we connect so the sum of all of us is greater than our individuality.
And until we can build bridges across ethnic lines and across regions, we feel that we really would never have a long-term victory. So this is excellent for us. We're very excited about the opportunity to be a part of the Equal Voice campaign.
Our generation was really a transition from demanding justice and to a certain degree had the misunderstanding that there was someone in charge of justice and that we can just go to some department or someplace to say we want justice, we want freedom, we want rights. To then understanding that the justice that we really wanted had to be built by us. Now that I'm involved in building justice, I can tell you that it's a lot harder than demanding justice.
So this morning we have 4 people who are going to share stories with us. How did people deal with some of the most important aspects of their work to move a movement, a campaign, an initiative forward?
Know that there was never a 40-acre and a mule allotment to African Americans. That is a myth.
Because I remember how much we were able to accomplish back in the olden days with so little. I remember when Cesar Chavez, we were doing the boycott. And we were sending farm workers to Chicago, to New York, to all the major cities, and all they had was a broken down car and a phone number to call whenever you got there. It was usually some priest.
And then when you move into an environment where your whole agenda is to get reelected or to get invited to the party, then the needs of the people are left many instances behind, and then we have to fight with them as hard as we have to fight with those who are perceived as our enemy to get them to do the right thing.
Taking where we are as a reality, how do we turn that into a strength? How do we turn the fact that, okay, we have developed, because the constituency and the multi-layered society has become increasingly diverse and complicated since the 60s and 70s, and the fact that we've developed some expertise in these silos could be actually turned into a galvanizing asset because we have more reach, we have more engagement in these communities, more familiarity with the issues, and probably better leverage now more than ever to pull our pieces together.
And as long as we can keep the message and the vision and the voice and the goal on this is a campaign that is going to lift the voices of all working and low-income families, and to say that this is a campaign that is being facilitated, but is really a campaign of those communities. And I think we can hopefully start to move beyond some of those constraints.
So if you can take immigrants, right, and you put them on the Gulf Coast, and you put them in New Orleans, and you put them in Florida, and you bring them and then you work them for 6 months, and then you send them away, and you call INS, you call ICE, and you turn them in, and then you bring another group in to do the same thing too. That's human slavery.
You know, who defines what our issues are? Who defines what the needs are in our communities, and thereby what the solutions are for our communities?
We're talking about to be clear about what we want people to participate in. But I thought we also heard that we need to be clear about what's involved in the movement and what's involved in creating the movement.
So I was saying that to me it's like it's what we're going to do up until 2008, but then it's also we need to have the back end of this work equally planned out so that we don't raise the expectation of 10,000 families or more.
Because if we're trying to really change the paradigm in this country and its centers of power like Washington, D.C., then it has to have a vision that truly embraces a collective vision of what is possible in this country, given the historic opportunities that we sense are on the horizon. Only if we can achieve real unity of purpose in saying we're taking our country back and reprioritizing how we utilize our resources.
All I want to say to you is this. I know this is not going to be easy. And we're all going to have many, many doubts about this. And I'm hoping that we can achieve all the things we say we're going to do. And if we don't achieve them in 1 year, I'm okay with that. But as long as we keep the eye on the prize and bringing about change and engaging families in the process of change, that's what we care about.
So there has to be a very strong statement about how the issues all interrelate, how we're being divided, and how we must overcome that.
Getting the campaign to focus on some issues is going to be critical.
Ultimately, in any organizing drive, you need some targets. You need some actions. People need to be able to say, I'm going to organize to do this because it's going to change that, and here is the platform that I'm going to say to every presidential candidate. What's your position?
Looking at the various hot issues that we're involved in, education, mass incarceration, immigration, but trying to look at that from the standpoint of what kind of framework would we develop to connect those movements. We're very short-sighted. We're cutting back on the investment in our children. We're cutting back on the safety net. Globalization, the way it's been handled, is creating super rich people, but hundreds of millions of poor people.
I think the gap between the rich and the poor is of serious concern to this country, should be to our society, because it has generational impacts, and we're not thinking about that.
We're really in this together, and the movement has to be broad-based and interconnected.
I guess I didn't used to think it was that important because I was among so many Native people already, and we were always talking about what our plight was. But as I came out into the world by sitting on national organizations, by meeting many people throughout the years that I've been working with the Hopi Foundation, if our voice is not there, then when we go in as a separate group to ask for something, who are we?
If I can have some type of voice or part in making change, then I have had a worthwhile life. So, yes.
People are crying out and wanting change. Everyone's wanting change across the board, especially those most affected on the ground. So there's a new energy and there's a new spirit to organize, which in many ways makes it easier to organize more with less.
Thinking through
It isn't that we didn't have a voice before, it's just that nobody listens. And I think that the connection is going to create that opportunity to say, maybe if we all speak at the same time, we will be heard.
I think what will motivate this campaign to succeed is a profound sense of love, human empathy, and social justice.